Well, Dean, are you breaking the law when you have a tourist visa?
That's a very interesting question, Norm.
It is. There's been a few stories in the news recently which got us thinking. Are we breaking our tourist visas when we go on vacation? Let's explore it. But before we do, looking pretty in yellow, teen.
Well, I'm beginning to think, Norm, that spring is on its way,
Well, it's
and
it's it's rushing here. It's rushing is spring.
it is, isn't it?
Anyway, the story that we're referring to was about two young women that got turned away at the borders. So, what do we have first, Teen?
Well, I think the first one has to be, are you staying with a host family? And this was really interesting because recently in the news, there was actually a young woman who was from Wales and she got stopped trying to come into Canada,
So she
didn't
was
she?
she was coming from the US
Yeah.
into Canada. I think crossing around the Seattle area with BC. So the Canadian Customs Officer asked her what she was doing in Canada, what she will be doing, where she's staying. And I guess she told them about a host family that she'd stayed with one in the US and she had a host family in Canada. And so after a few questions, it was deemed that she was working on a tourist visa because she was giving a few hours per day in exchange for her accommodation and food.
And we were really surprised to hear this, weren't we? Because to us, it just seemed possibly a very simple relationship. You do this and we'll do that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I guess in the eyes of the law, it isn't, is it?
No, it goes
No.
from people helping people
Yeah.
to people employing people, even though there was no exchange of cash. It was goods in kind, I guess you would call it, food and board. And then this led to another story just around the same time. House sitting, pet sitting is a big thing. There are online agencies that you can register, and then you would be paired to either a homeowner or a sitter to come and stay in your house while you go away, especially if you have pets. But once again, this has been stopped at the border with some people. So there was an Australian woman trying to do this, coming into Canada.
Yeah. And I think she got as far as Montreal and
Hmm.
was asked the questions. And she said that she was going to be house sitting here in Canada. And what we didn't know is that house sitting in Canada is a job. And people pay people here in Canada to look after their house while they're away. So it is a paid job. And again, they didn't let her in
No.
because they said it was an infringement of the visa, which was technically, I guess, a tourist visa.
Yep.
And she would be then perceived as working.
Taking a job
Yeah.
from a Canadian. And there are other countries where that is an issue, where house sitting or pet sitting is an occupation. Just think about all those people who take pets or dogs for a walk. They do that full time. So you need to be careful when you're being asked at the border by a border agent exactly what you're going to be doing.
And I think this one came home to us, didn't it, Norm? Because in actual fact, we had just been looking at house sitting, not necessarily pet sitting, because we'll be honest, we're not very good at looking after pets, are we, Norm? So
No.
that would be no good for us. But we've heard more and more people say, hey, why don't you look at house sitting to cut your costs down when you're traveling the world? And so we had actually started to look at this and
Yeah.
had no idea that we could be infringed on visiting the place. So perhaps we won't look at house sitting anymore.
And the really bad thing
Yeah.
is that they open up your passport to one of the visa pages and they stamp a version of denied entry. And that's going to stay in your passport for as long as it's valid. So, yeah, you really need to be careful about pet sitting, house sitting. Overstaying your visa. Now, you might not be working, but you're just having a great time. You're maybe in Portugal and you want to be there longer than 90 days. Well, you're breaking the law.
You are. And even though we hear of some people, because we get people sending comments to us and they're looking for ways of staying longer than 90 days. Yes, you can call up and try and get it extended, but you can't be guaranteed on that.
No.
And if you are caught staying longer than what you are allowed, which as Norm said is 90 days, not only do you get fined, but you're probably banned from going back in.
And that includes 26 countries in Europe.
Which,
So you do need
Yeah.
to really be aware of the ramifications of staying too long on a tourist visa. Same can be in the Dominican Republic as well. We've
Yeah.
seen couples there that go there and overstay. And there is a small penalty at the border that you have to pay. I think it's $50. But it's recorded against your name. So the next time you come, you're going to face maybe more scrutiny than you would otherwise. So,
made us think of lots of other reasons that could this be a problem. So we thought of, what about people when we travel, we see them possibly staying in a hostel and they're working, saying, hey, can I have free board if, say, I work in the kitchen, or if the place has a bar, they can say I'll work a few hours in the bar. In return, they're getting free accommodation. Well, we just didn't realize, did we, that
No.
this is not free accommodation. You are actually breaking the law.
you're taking jobs
Yeah.
away from local people.
Yeah.
And I think countries are becoming more aware of that as more people are traveling, and especially nomad type
Yeah.
people where they can work remotely. Other things like you might be tempted while you're on a long stay, say in Portugal or Spain,
Yeah.
of teaching locals English as a second language and giving you something to do.
Yeah.
But that's working. Even though you might not be getting paid for it, it's an occupation that somebody who lives in that country that can speak English, that has the right to work, could be doing that. So I know it's tempting to do volunteer work while you're abroad, but some of these volunteer positions can bring you into trouble.
I think that also opens up to, Norm. What if, say, you think you know a lot about a place when you're visiting,
Yeah.
and you think, hey, I could be a tourist guide. When Norm and I visit a lot of places, we often do these free walking tours.
Yeah.
They're the ones where people hold the brightly colored umbrellas and they
Yeah.
take them on tours and things.
Right.
And what happens is, although you don't actually pay for the tour, but what you do is you give tips to the guides who are doing the tour. So if you were somebody, again, wanting to earn extra money, I guess you could make quite a lot of money on these tips.
Once again, it comes
Yeah.
back to, are you on long stay vacations for maybe the winter? So you're going to be somewhere maybe a month, 2 or 3, and you get bored. So you think, well, I know a lot about Lisbon, say,
Yeah.
so I'll go and get one of these gigs because there's no salary, but it's basically commission only, tips only. And you'll run into being in trouble with the authorities.
I guess that's where the expression, Norm, comes from, getting paid under the table.
Oh,
hey?
yeah,
That
grey economy.
And actually, that's strange, Norm, because on our travels too in Portugal, we actually bumped into a couple and we got to know them quite well. And they stayed quite a few months in Portugal.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she did was she worked at a local charity shop, didn't she?
She did. That was her entertainment, her thing to do.
Yeah. And that would never occur to us that she was taking away a job of like one of the locals. She was volunteering just for something to do. So I guess you've got to be careful with that, hey?
So that's another grey
Yeah.
area is these volunteer positions. So charity shops, there's lots of them. We see them in Portugal as well. But are you denying a local the opportunity to volunteer or to get paid a small amount of money? So that's a grey area. And one other area, I nearly tripped at the border with this, is I do stock photography. And one time I won a competition to do a photo shoot in New York, where all the models, high-end apartment had been rented. And we were doing a lifestyle photo shoot for a picture agency. So I actually told the border guard on the way in to the US what I was doing. And then she got all funny on me about earning money and tax. But luckily, the agency who handles my pictures take care of that.
Yeah.
So Canada and the US have a tax treaty. So I claim the tax treaty benefits and I fill out an American tax form called W-BEN or W-8BEN as a non-resident. And so I pay a small amount of withholding tax on any images that are licensed in the US and claim the tax treaty on the balance of it. So I'm perfectly within the law. That's about the only way you can use these apps as nomads if you are paying the withholding tax in the country where you're living.
And I think, again, Norm, that is something that perhaps a lot of people just might never even think of, do they?
No.
When they're going, if they're visiting a country and then they're going to be doing things like you say, taking pictures or videos that depending. Now, we are saying that a lot of this is possibly dependent on the immigration officer that you get.
Yeah, you might get a good one or you get a stickler.
Yeah, so it's just things that you have to be aware of because I think things are getting tightened up a lot more now than maybe they used to be a few years ago.
Yeah, certainly Canada is very, very on the ball when it comes to tourist visas. And they do ask quite pointed questions of people to try to get to the truth. Because there's too many people coming in on tourist visas and doing work like personal trainers, like photographic models, this type of thing. And they're trying to stop that because you can't do it on a tourist visa.
No.
So anyway, we hope you're not breaking your tourist visa when you travel. And we certainly aren't. It's not worth it. We're retired.
Yeah.
Don't need to work.
And we hope that everybody is keeping well.
And staying safe.
Until the next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.